Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laser Focus. This is the deep dive pop culture podcast from Nerdist. I'm Kyle Anderson. Thank you all for listening. Folks, this week I am joined once again by a longtime friend of the show. We're going to talk about theme parks for a very specific reason. Well, two. One, we like them, but two, because she's just written a book about them. She's been on the show a bunch of times. She also was a coworker of mine for a very long time. She is the writer of Star Wars Women of the Galaxy, The Jedi Mind, A Kid's Guide to Fandom, and The Art of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Her new book is Thrill Ride, an adult rom-com set in the small town theme park from Kensington Books, out now. Welcome back to the show, Amy Ratcliffe. Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kyle?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, you're making me happy. I remembered to update my website to say out now instead of
That's
available
exactly
for pre-order.
right.
I was like, oh, I know where that's from. I was proud of
I know.
myself. I was like, oh, we need to change that today.
Yeah, well, that's go straight to
last
the
week.
source. That's what I say.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah, and you also have a very nice newsletter. Not that we're plugging your newsletter, but I like your newsletter too. That you're one of the few newsletters I actually like open.
Oh, I'm very touched. Thank you. I need to write one this week, in fact.
But yeah, so Amy's been on the show a bunch to talk about various nerdy things, but basically your main gig these days is just being an author, which is a really fun thing. And as your friend, I'm very proud of you and happy for you.
Thank you.
But so this is Thrill Ride is your first novel, your first published novel, I should say. I don't know how many novels you've written. Probably a million. Just one? I don't know.
Just this one. Just this one. Yeah.
Hey, great. Well, you're 1 for 1 on novel publishing.
I feel good about it.
But yeah, like I said, or like it says on your website, it's a rom-com set in a theme park. What how did that come about? What was your sort of impetus for writing it? And just talk all about the book itself.
Yeah, so I love romantic comedies. I love romance. Rom-coms go way back to, the Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan years.
Sure.
Well, When Harry Met Sally, so Billy Crystal. Meg Ryan, I guess, is the constant. Which I love going back to those movies because I feel like someone who, like a Tom Hanks, would not be cast as the lead in a rom-com now. It would be, I think he is an attractive man, but
Sure.
I think rom-com leads tend to be more like Channing Tatum's now, which is great. But I like that era of also like Meg Ryan and her like giant pleated khakis and like, different times. It was great.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, I mean, I'd read some romance books before then, but I really got into reading romance in 2016 when the first, now it's not the only, but when the first brick and mortar romance bookstore opened, and it opened in Los Angeles in Culver City, called The Ripped Bodice. And my friend Sarah lived in that part of town and had been writing romance. Sarah Kuhn, her books are great. She took me to the grand opening of The Ripped Bodice and was just like, I didn't know until I walked in that store, I'd been very into Regency romance, and that's when I became aware of I knew paranormal romance too, I guess, but not sports romance. Contemporary romance was a genre I hadn't even dipped my toes into. Even in sports, I'm specific hockey romance, that is a whole thing. Christmas romance, Hallmark movies, but with more kissing and things.
Sure.
So I really, really got into reading romance, and I wrote a short story for Star Wars from a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back, a fiction short story. And that was the first fiction I had written in a million years, since college class, because I'd been scared of it. But then I wrote that and it was fun, even though I was within constraints of my story was set during the Battle of Hoth. So there were certain things I had to write around, but it still felt freeing. And especially doing things like writing dialogue for Han Solo. I'm oh, making things up is cool. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
So I kind of had an idea that I wanted to do more fiction and wanted to do romance. And two things. One of my favorite romance series is by Jen DeLuca, and they are a series of romantic comedies or romances that are set at Renaissance fairs. Love a Ren fair. That is kind of like theme park vibes. And then in June 2021, I went for Nerdist the opening of the Velocicoaster at Universal Islands of Adventure. And it is it's an intense roller coaster.
Mm.
I do not like roller coasters, but I wanted to, as I could maintain journalistic integrity. And so I wrote it because I wanted to be able to do informed interviews. If you are a roller coaster person, I think it's pretty great and inventive. For me, it was not a good time. I will never go on it again. But that night at the press event, I started thinking about like, okay, what if just like I just had a moment of thinking about a character who loved roller coasters, and that became Charlotte, the lead of my story, and used to be a former. Like, how can I make her so I get to write about all the theme parks things I love? Do a grumpy sunshine romance, which is one of my favorite tropes, just personality types, and make it a kissing book that's basically set in the world of theme parks, and that is how that started.
That's well, first of all, write what you know, and you know theme parks. Like
Yes,
you,
exactly.
you used
I'm
to
like,
cover them extensively for us. You also just enjoy going to them, so that's cool. Um, I this kind of thing. I'm kind of I've stopped trying to write fiction, mostly out of laziness, but it's sort of just like uh kind of the opposite of what you like. The freedom kind of scares me. Like you get so used to writing articles where you know exactly what you're going to write, or essays or something like that. And so when it's just like, well, now what does he say? Like, I don't know, like that really like put the fear of, what, and these were all just spec stuff I was just writing. Like, I want to write a horror book. Like that was kind of going to be my vibe. So I find it really interesting that you see the blank page or whatever in that sense and go, the world is my oyster or whatever, your lobster, as my wife says. I don't know why. The world
She
is your
just must
lobster.
really
It
like.
makes me
I
laugh.
mean, lobster is the superior choice of the two if you're going to eat them.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, because oysters you don't really eat. I mean, I enjoy them, but I just like they just I don't chew.
No, you can't chew those. You just
So
swallow them.
yeah,
I mean, I guess you can chew
you
oysters, but I don't know
could.
about.
I mean, if they're like baked or fried, I guess, but not
Yeah.
anyway. Lobster rolls are the bomb.
Oh man, I had my first lobster roll when we went to Seattle a couple years ago. Man, it was the best. It was so good.
So good. I haven't had one in a coastal town in a while. There's a place here in Nashville that's and I'm like, yeah, I know you can get, but I'm like, I don't want to eat a lobster roll in the mountains. That's just not
Yeah.
the vibe.
Those mountain lobsters. They all have prospector hats on.
Little pickaxes.
But anyway, how long did it take you to get to the point where or maybe you were that way right from the beginning, but like, because you've written so many kind of reference books, for lack of a better term, or like, essay books and things like that, to get to, well, now that I am completely open to do whatever I want. Cause I assume like even writing fiction within Star Wars, like you are constrained by like, well, you can't have Han Solo, like, do something completely out of character. Like you're still within the constraints, but these are brand new characters that you've created in your own world. Like, did you find that not overwhelming the way that I think it would be overwhelming?
Creating everything was fun. Creating the characters was fun, but definitely going from, when I would write like the Jedi Mind or Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, like those are kind of like articles in that way where it's like, okay, I know what I need to cover here. I have these interviews that I need to pull quotes from, like that is known territory and it's more straightforward. And when you have all the control, and something I kind of learned painfully with Thrill Ride is, it's easy to lose your way and it is easy to get lost in that. Like, okay, I kind of started with like, I knew the opening chapter because I knew I wanted to be like the opening line came so fast. The opening chapter, who Charlotte was, came fast. But I knew how I wanted to end. I kind of knew Gregory, her love interest, but like, so I knew these bare bones, right? But because I didn't take the time to like fully outline with Thrill Ride, I knew the beginning and the middle, the messy middle is the thing, but there is a point where you're just like, okay, I don't know why I was going to look at a watch. A watch doesn't tell me a word count. Nor do I have one.
It
One
could.
right
Wouldn't
now.
that be helpful?
That would be helpful. We get to around like 30,000 words and I'm like, what happens next? We still have how much to go until, because average romance novels are anywhere from 70,000 to 90,000, kind of average. And when I turned it in, as an example, I had 75,000, and there were many places where my editor was like, go back in and like, this needs more. And I added 13,000 words. And so a lesson I have taken from that, I'm working on the follow-up to Thrill Ride now because it was a 2-book deal, and novel idea that I had, that definitely no writer does, is I outlined more. I am still going to get to a point like where I'm like, the idea of what happens is more vague, but I found with Thrill Ride, those moments when I was kind of stuck, I would skip ahead to something I
Mm,
was excited to write about. And I love especially writing dialogue for 2 reasons. One, eats up words like you would not believe,
for
and
sure.
we love that, and it just goes like fast because you're thinking how you would talk, and once you spend time with the characters, but I would be continually surprised by the second part of that, which is like the characters, like you hear writers say that the characters will tell you what they want, and that did happen sometimes where it's like, this is what I planned, but it feels like Gregory should talk about this here. And so I really like dialogue for both of those reasons. And but it was hard to steer the ship sometimes, and I was very, very grateful like when I could turn into my editor and just be like, help. And she did a lot. And it's my first full fiction novel, so I have a lot to learn.
Sure.
There are flaws, but hopefully I will get better.
I mean, first of all, you're already uh they wouldn't publish garbage. First of all, I think it's really like testament to a good editor. You and I are both have been editors and are editors, but like somebody who is really like, okay, I will help you shape this, like is a really that skill is really important, and like not enough people uh are aware that, even in, reference material or something like that, nonfiction, um editors can help you with the shape of the thing that you're writing, which in a really, you know, it's also just nice to have a fresh perspective on things. Um, but like uh, the both of you, I assume, but you had mentioned that you were big into the genre. Were you like, or were getting really big into the genre? Were you sort of like, when you got stuck, could you go, okay, it's about this page count. I need to have something happen here, and then you can kind of like go through your Rolodex of stuff you've read or like over the years. Was that like helpful to have that in your on your shelf, I guess, as it were?
Yes, 100%. Because another thing I love about romance is, besides the fact romance genre, like, it is going to end with a happy ever after or a happy
Sure.
for now. That is part of it. But there are also like tropes are very much a thing in romance. The third act breakup is not always as much of a thing. Like, people are kind of working around that now. The grand gesture, like there are beats that are
For
part
sure.
of like built in, so that really helps because I know like I read a lot on my ebooks, so I know that when I get to like 80%, um, something bad is about to happen.
Right.
Like that breakup, that miscommunication, that part is coming, and especially from there because it's like, okay, breakup, grand gesture, finale, usually an epilogue that is, some sweet moment, like furthering their future, whether it is a wedding and a proposal, moving in together, or just something that tells you like they are still together a year later or whatever, and looks like it's going to stay that way. So those really help. And I kind of also look to, I'm spacing absolutely on the person who came up with it, but Save the Cat is a
Oh yeah, Snyder, right?
right? I cannot
Blake Snyder.
remember.
Blake Snyder.
Blake Snyder. So there's a version of that which was, created for screenplays for novels, and I found that really helpful, especially as a first time fiction author writing a book, which just is so many more words like than you think. Like you're like, oh, I've got to be like halfway, and I'm like, I am not. I still have 50 more thousand words, which is where I am right now, by the way, in my follow up. And I'm just like, oh my. I found Save the Cat really helpful
Mm,
for, especially for the middle. I
yeah.
get really hung up in the middle. And I really like describing scenery, which is fun for me, especially when it's a theme park.
Sure.
But I say that because I'm like, I can very quickly get lost to vibes. So having those beats, whether it's from Save the Cat or like thinking about my favorite romance novels, is super helpful to have like guideposts to like along the way that you're like, okay, I am writing to this moment. So by the time we get to the third act breakup, I need to have laid like this whatever, this groundwork so that whatever the fallout is isn't just like, what? Yeah.
I remember reading like Dickens for the first time, and he just spent paragraphs upon paragraphs talking about linen curtains and stuff like that, or lace curtains or whatever, and just being like, God, why is he doing this? And then I was like, oh, it's to eat up word count.
That's my hunch. That's certainly what I would do. She's like, do you want to, I just, yes, I just did something like that, but like with Dungeons and Dragons in the book I'm writing. And I'm like, wow, I just had a character explain what D&D is in 500 words later.
Yeah.
And
See,
then
this is
like, then my editor will tell me if it's too much.
Yeah. Everybody knows this kind of stuff. They might say. That's an example of a thing an editor might say. What was your favorite, what has been, because you've now kind of, the book is out. What have been some of your favorite like reactions to the book? Because you've gone on a little book tour. You've done some signings, I guess. You have not done a tour, but
yes, I did. I went
what
two
have
places.
you heard that do kind of either surprised you about your own writing or something like, because once it's out in the world, it's other people's, you know what I mean? And you kind of just, I guess they took something out of it that you maybe didn't think about, but what's been your favorite of those kind of interactions?
Yeah, it is kind of that. I've been actually quite proud of myself for being like, it is out in the world. It will
Sure.
do what it will. And for example, I have not gone to look at reviews. I don't want to know.
Sure.
But I've had friends. My favorite thing is I sent advance copies to a couple of different friends who work for Disney parks and have worked for Disney parks for a long time. And this is a book for theme park adults. But something I really appreciated hearing from a friend who works at Walt Disney World and is kind of on the communication side of things is like, this book captured more than anything like the feeling of why I do what I do, which is that Charlotte's like one of her driving factors is she really wants to make that magic for other people. She really wants to give people an immersive escape because that is so valuable in our world for all ages, to have a place where you can just go and be in a bubble and not think about your troubles. And so to hear that from a friend, just that it got that across in ways that he had not been able to articulate before, made me really touched. And then I like when I get the little messages from other Disney nerds who are like, oh, because I renamed everything, but they're very clearly, like, you can pretty much usually tell it's like, instead of Imagineers, they're Dream Mechanics, because I didn't want to, we don't want to mess with Disney.
No.
Trademarks, copyrights, any of that. So it's fun when I get messages from people who are like, oh, I see see what you did there. And I'm like, well, that one wasn't, I mean, they're not that clever, but it still brought me joy.
That's great. What got you into theme parks I mean, you mentioned the magic aspect of it. What was your kind of first foray or the moment where you were like, okay, this kind of thing is for me? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was lucky enough. It's kind of two parts. I was lucky enough to go to Disney World like once as a small kid, and then Disneyland once. Which, by the way, Disneyland in '91 is my first experience ever with Star Wars because I went on Star Tours.
Sure.
I didn't know what Star Wars was. I didn't really know after that either, but I was like, oh yeah, that was my first time. And then in Ohio growing up, we had what I would call, we had Cedar Point, which is a pretty big amusement park.
Right.
But a little themed part they had that I liked when I was a kid is they had a land for Berenstain Bears. Not a whole land. It was kind of like
an area.
And I think it was indoors, which was also, so it was always shaded and nice. And, that was still a drive. So I didn't go that often, but I remember that kind of loving those books, being like, oh, I can be in these books. Also, like, this keeps me from having to go on, I was pretty young to go on like big roller coasters, which is Cedar Point's like thing. But they had like flume rides too, and I didn't really like those either. So I was just basically the equivalent of like, how can I stay inside and read a book but in a theme park as a
Right.
kid? Um,
I
I
get
was
it.
cool. I was a cool kid. And then fast forward many years later, when I moved to Los Angeles in 2007 or thereabouts, I think that's when that was. I went to Disneyland as an adult, really for the first time. I was like, oh, and got an annual pass and never looked back because it was just that feeling of being special and living in the stories that I liked and being special, being in a special place, living in stories that I loved,
Yeah.
and being one of my favorite things still. I haven't been to Disneyland in so long, but like there's just like this magic of like walking around Adventureland specifically at nighttime, like with the lighting and the music, and I think there are like bug sounds, and you just feel like you're in another world and
Yeah.
not Anaheim, California. And I think when Imagineers can do that, be in a place or on a ride, like it just feels, that you can be transported. It feels like us like reading books. I guess that is why I like it. Like it's like, oh, I'm transported. I'm somewhere else, but like I'm really there.
Yeah. I So let's get into our main topic, which is to talk about theme parks and why we like them and things like that. But because I have a similar sort of, I went to my family and went to Disneyland when I was like 12, and I remember being like overwhelmed by it, like in like a positive way, like just being like it's just like you see, because when we were kids, uh, are there any Gen Z or Gen Alpha people listening to this? Probably not, but back in the 90s, they used to just have shows go to Disneyland a lot because everything was filmed out here in LA, so they could just like go to Disneyland or Disney World for that matter. But like anything on ABC, like the TGIF lineup, they would always go to Disneyland for
Oh, that's
reasons.
right.
Um, also, fun fact, it's sidebar fun fact, but the show Step by Step,
Yeah.
the opening, the theme song, there like sequence, they're at an amusement park, a roller coaster park, and at the end of it, like the camera is a big like aerial shot. I was going to say a drone shot, but there was no drones back then. And like there's all the roller coasters, and then there's like the sea, the ocean, like crashing up against it. That was all, of course, added because they shot it at uh uh Magic Mountain, and so they just put in
Oh, and
the
Santa
ocean over.
Clarita.
Yeah. So they put in the ocean over um the parking lot. It
That's.
just covered the parking lot with an
I
ocean.
kind of looked that up on YouTube now.
Yeah,
That's
you
great.
should. It's very funny. Because once you know it, you're like, okay, that's clearly Magic Mountain. But I find that stuff really funny. But anyway, I was like, and that was back. So Star Tours is something I'd wanted to go on for a long time. All of those, like even something like I was like, it was an emotional thing for me to go to that. Like, It's a Small World, like really, choked me up and stuff like that. And like seeing the Main Street Electrical Parade and like all that stuff. Like
Yes.
there was just so much about it that I found really lovely. And then subsequently, I was about to say subsequently after that, friends
Yeah. Yeah.
subsequently means after that. Um, we went to Disney World a bunch because my mom's cousin used to work for Disney parks. And so she could get
Oh.
us in a bunch. So we at least 3 times, I think, went. So it wasn't until I moved back to LA in 2008 that I actually went to Disneyland again. And I was like kind of surprised at how much I remembered, like of the layout and stuff. Like
Aw.
it was, yeah, because I went with three friends, my roommate at the time, and then two of our other friends on Thanksgiving because it was our first year living not in Colorado. And I was just like, I felt like the tour guide. I'm like, so over here is this, and over here, and they were just like, when did you come here? And I was like, when I was 12.
You're like, I'm really stuck.
Yeah, 13 years ago. But there is something up, there are many theme parks. There are many, many theme parks. But like Disney is the one for a lot of people, and I think that's the one that a lot of Universal is trying to live up to Disney in a lot of ways, especially now. And I
Oh,
think they're doing a pretty decent job.
I cannot wait to go to Epic Universe.
Yeah, that looks so cool.
Cannot wait.
I want to go to like Universal Horror Land. Like that sounds awesome.
It looks
Yeah.
so.
And I think that's something that, like, I would like more of. We can talk, I mean, I don't know how how gripey we wanna get, but this is coming from a place of enjoyment. We like these parks. But I think one of the things that I love theming. I love areas that are themed to a thing. I love it. I do not like the stuff they do at Disney parks where everybody has to act like it's real. I know that's for children, but it's like, I'm a grown up. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I ask you a question, don't respond, especially, yeah, I don't know. That kind of stuff drives me nuts where it's just like, I went to the whatchamacallit, like a press day, actually, like a week
Oh,
before COVID,
oh,
week
that's
before lockdown,
right.
when they were just building Avengers Campus and Disney's California Adventure, and they showed us like what the robotic Spider-Man, like they just showed it to us. And I was like asking questions about like, well, how does it work? And they were just like, well, it's just Spider-Man. He has powers. And it's like, no, I'm a grown up. Like, tell me the actual answer. Like,
Like
I know it's
the
proprietary
the five
software or whatever, but like,
the 5-year-olds are not going to read this website and be like, "It's not Spider."
yeah, it's
Yeah, I
like,
struggle with that too,
yeah.
especially when you're doing interviews. It's like, "Yeah,
Well,
get
there's
it."
only, and I'd be like, so the guy comes out and then goes back, and then there's another spot. So, like, at what point is it a person versus? And the guy was just like, well, there's only one Spider-Man. I'm like, I want to throttle you.
You're like, "Yes, I know." Like your media training could be a little less. No, I get that. And I also, on the on stage side of things, like I really like Galaxy's Edge. I don't like that it's canon. I don't like that it is like, and
Yeah,
even now,
totally.
I think that they're kind of moving away from that based on some of the characters and stuff, but I don't like that, like, let's not make it frozen in time. I like what I see from Avengers Campus, even though I know it's small, where it's like, okay, like you're having people appear like with different TV shows, like with things that are timely and it's
Yes.
fresh and it's not always this one point in time part of the canon because that's
Yeah, and it's sort of like, I know they just announced or just showed bits. Was that at D23? I forget, but of the new like Avengers ride that they're putting in, or the Iron Man ride, which I think is,
yes.
I don't know if it's 100% for me, but like,
Yes, I got it's to the point where I'm like, I don't think I paid a lot of attention to
because
that.
it's like a gyroscope ride where you're like strapped in and like you're on a
That's
test flight and Jarvis is like moving you around and stuff. Not for me. But I still sort of like so anyway, the point I was trying to make is that it's a very small area, but it's very densely populated with stuff. Avengers Campus, and like there's not a ton to do, but there's a ton to look at, which I think is really kind of fun. And yeah, you're right. Like they always have characters coming out, and when movies or TV shows, there's when Cap 4 came out, like there was the new Cap 4 suit, character out there and
cool.
stuff like that. And I think for kids, obviously, that's really enjoyable. But I like the I cannot get like Adventureland or even Fantasyland. You get kind of lost in that because that's sort of like old timey, but also like just kind of general vibes of stuff. And like Galaxy's Edge, it's just like, well, I'm just walking through a movie that where nothing's happening. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, thank you, Kyle Anderson, for leaning into kind of one of the conflicts of my book Joe Ride
okay,
is that the theme park is Lands of Legend, right? It's small. It's, as you might guess by the name, very like, okay, there's a land called Adventurers Gate. There's Fairy Tale Land. There's Forgotten Beast. It is themed like vibes, myth,
hmm,
legend, etc. And they're trying to open this new land called Under the Waves that is kind of based in like, oh, there's like a ride about Atlantis. There's stuff about like the Mariana Trench in there. Like, it's kind of vibes. But they have to have an investor come in, Gregory, and he's never been on a roller coaster. And he's like, well, why don't we just put IP in here? What intellectual property can we license and make money off of and get people to come? And then it's like the Charlotte being like, IV has a place, and this is not it. Because I feel that way. Like I think about my favorite rides at the parks. Okay, Indiana Jones is the exception. I
sure,
love that ride at Disneyland, but it's Haunted Mansion, it's
for
Jungle
sure.
Cruise, it's Pirates. Before it became a movie franchise, like that's been our favorite. Like it is those original rides that are not based on intellectual property.
Yeah,
I don't have a thing against those, but like to your point, like it's a very different feeling when I'm in Adventureland or New Orleans Square versus Cars Land or
Yeah.
yeah.
And I like it's tough because like from just like Cars Land is incredibly impressive from the like let's take something that does not exist in the human world, which is anthropomorphic cars, and
As far as you know.
as far as I know. And I think that that's like the best area that they have there at um DCA, and it's sort of like, and that's like one of the best rides. Like it's just all this stuff, and it's a movie I don't care about, and I think that actually helps because like I don't like those movies. And so it's just sort of like, yeah, this is fun. But like Avengers Campus, I obviously know those movies inside and out, and so I'm sort of like, granted, it's apples and oranges because that's such a small area and doesn't have like a ton of stuff. There's
Right.
one ride currently open. But even like, Galaxy's Edge at the time, the first time I went to it, Rise of the Resistance was not open. So it was just like this huge area. And if you're not going to spend $1 million to buy it, to build yourself a droid or a
Lightsaber.
lightsaber, like you have one ride that you can ride. And it's sort of just like, I don't know. It's a weird,
Well, and you mentioning Cars Land made me think like how much I adore Pandora, the World of Avatar, and Animal
sure.
Kingdom. And
I've not
I
been to
mean,
that, but yeah.
I don't care about those movies, but that land, they have captured something where, yes, that is intellectual property, but it doesn't, it just feels like I'm going into a magical world and I don't,
Yeah.
but it might be because I don't care. Like I don't have a connection to those movies. So I'm not thinking about them when I go in there. And that might be the difference.
Yeah.
Because that is an enchanting like
Yeah.
part of
Absolutely.
that park.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's very much like a, I don't know, like I sort of miss the days when the theme parks were just its own thing. And I think that like I've not actually been to Knott's Berry Farm. That's what you're supposed to say. And I know that they have like, what is it, the Peanuts characters or something like that. They have some characters, but otherwise it's just like now you're back in old Prospector times or whatever, and it's sort of like that's fun. Or um, I like it when they devote a lot of energy to theming stuff. Like the old Haunted Mansion. Because I know a lot of people love the Nightmare Before Christmas version of it. I would prefer to go on the original version. 1 million times out of 1 million, I would like to go there.
I didn't used to agree with that, but now that I feel like Nightmare is there for so long out of the year, I'm like, no. Sorry,
it's like if you, yeah, go. You have to go like May 30th to even like get on the regular the one. But there's something about the history of theme parks that I think is kind of going away because everything's sort of IP driven nowadays. Like, even they're building more and more like DC roller coasters at Six Flags and stuff like that. They have to tie themselves to properties so that people will get so kids will want to go. I don't really know. Like it used to just be, hey, let's go to a park. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and not be like, because I have to ride the Superman ride or whatever.
Which was a fun ride. Is a fun ride. I've only been to Six Flags one time, but so I don't know. Like I kind of go back and forth because like I am impressed by the ingenuity and the like extravagance of some of that stuff. And I do like a lot of those like the storybook style rides where it's you basically just go through a movie or go through a condensed version of the movie.
Love a dark ride.
But like I don't think they needed to retheme the Incredicoaster to Incredibles. Like it's still a good roller coaster, whether it's that or not.
Yeah, so, I forgot because like, what was it before? But I'm like, oh yeah, just California Screaming, and it was the same.
It was the exact same ride, except it just had like general like carnival-esque music going on, and no Disney bits or whatever.
No piped in chocolate chip cookie smell.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like they added like little coves or whatever where they add like characters and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel all those things, and I would also like to go to Knott's Berry Farm. I've never been.
Yes,
and like I want to go. Part of the inspiration for Lands of Legend is this theme park called Enchanted Forest in Portland, or near Portland, I should say. That it's very homegrown. It's based like it was very built by the family and just based on like fairy tales and like there's a haunted mansion and there's like a log ride and there's theming, but it's not. So I agree. There's appeal. I find appeal in both, and I guess it just depends on my mood. But I do I do feel like the alternative often to like a Disney is like a Six Flags, and I don't like roller coasters,
Yeah.
so that's more like. So even like I've been to Dollywood a couple times because it's quite close to where I am, and it's quite a bit of roller coasters. Like I like to go for a vibe, but I'm like most of these rides are not like. In fact, even looking at them makes me want to puke. So they're
Right.
not for me. So I
Yeah,
like
I don't
Disney
have
because
the.
it's all ages.
Yeah, I don't have the constitution. I used to be all about roller coasters. I still like them, but even riding the same ride twice in a row, like a couple times ago at my wife and I went on the Incredicoaster twice because there was no ride or no line. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
it's
I
really
get
let's
it.
just go again and like it was a mistake. I was horribly ill after the second time.
And I'll like be goofy, like, and I'll go on things like the Guardians roller coaster at
Sure,
Epcot because I'm like, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I'll
sure.
go once. For example, I've never been on the Aerosmith coaster at Hollywood Studios.
Hmm.
When it
Oh,
turns into a Muppet coaster,
oh, did
I will
they?
go
Well,
on it.
I
It
guess that
will
makes sense.
be at some point.
Boo.
Um, no, Muppets are great. How dare you,
No, I
Kyle?
love the Muppets. I just
I don't know how
tearing
they're
down
going to theme
history,
it.
man. That was like my favorite ride when I was a kid.
Um,
Aerosmith, Rock and Roller Coaster.
Aerosmith. Yeah, so I've never been on that, but the Guardians one was like, okay, I'm like, I'm going to go on this because I like Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the first time
Sure.
I also went on Tower of Terror, or what used to be Tower of Terror at DCA, is when they changed it to Mission Breakout. Anyway, went on that ride once, the Guardians coaster. I was okay. Went on like a separate trip, and somebody was like, "Oh, you got to sit in the back," and I'm like, "Okay," and I sat in the back, and I'm like, "Oh, hell no!" And it was like really hot that day, as often happens in Florida, and
Ugh.
I was just so like just so ill. Like I had to leave early, but I was
Yeah.
like, "But Guardians, you betrayed me." Then I'm like, Amy, you have met yourself.
Yeah.
So for IP, like I will do some stuff like that. So I don't have
Yeah.
logic,
It's
basically.
and I'm always so impressed by like, because there's only one would think there's only so much you can do with a roller coaster. Like it's the twisty turny aspect of it. But if they actually do a good job of theming, that's part of my issue with the Incredicoaster. It's like they force that
It's
story
yeah,
on you,
right. Like
but the ride itself has nothing to do
yeah.
with that. And there's I have not been to Florida since they redid all that stuff at Epcot and stuff, but like um if they can make you believe, like because that used to be Test Track, or is Test Track still there?
No,
Like,
Test Track is still there. It used to be something about energy. That was basically a ride with Ellen DeGeneres and or Bill Nye that at least I went on for a very long time in air conditioning. Like it was a slow
oh, it was
moving
one of
like
those
track
rides.
ride.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that.
There were
I
some
mean, I
good
remember things like that. Well, and it
yeah.
was also like there was the ride where you went up into the ball
That's
at
still there and it's my favorite.
because it's so old timey. I like the old timey aspect of
Yes.
it.
I know I was
Like,
trying to convince someone of that recently. I'm like, oh, there are all these old animatronics and Rome
yeah,
Burns, and it's air conditioned for a long time, and they're just like, and I'm like, no, go
yeah, it's
on
like a
it.
15-minute ride. It's like
I love
heck yeah,
Spaceship Earth. Oh,
yeah. Spaceship Earth. Yeah, that was it. Um, but yeah, so I'm not really getting to the point, or if I even have one. But I think there's the aspect of just like when Disneyland first opened, yes, there were characters, but it was also just like these are experiences. These are you get to go to an adventure land and a tomorrow land and all this stuff. And like so much of that now is just like they're doing a decent job at Disneyland of keeping some of that stuff still there because those are like popular rides, but like Tomorrowland is just IP now, basically, except for because and they even like Space Mountain, which is the best, like it is almost never just Space Mountain. It's always themed to something or other. Like they made it Hyperspace Mountain for a long time. It might
I
still
do
be.
like hyperspace. Oh, it probably is because it's Season of the Force again. But I do
Is that
like
that time again? We
it's
just have
that time. I do admit to liking hyperspace Mountain more than Space Mountain because of John Williams' music. I mean,
Sure. Yeah,
but
but I
I get
loved
it.
whatever the music was that they had. It's like dun, 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 dun. I just was like,
It's good. It's fun. Like
it's
that's what
fun.
you want. Just come off, and I'm like, I am gleeful, like
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
emotionally,
absolutely.
yeah, like in
I
some
think
way.
that's what you and so like to get off of Disney for a second, I'm gonna talk about Universal Studios because I've not been to the one in Florida, which I hear is incredible and huge and big and all that stuff.
Yes, yes,
The one here doesn't have a ton of room.
but it's so good.
It's still good. I mean, it's not a it's you can't do multiple days there, um but when we went took a day trip to Universal when I flew there when I was a kid. We went to Disneyland and then
I
we
thought you were gonna say from your house, and
from
I'm
my house
like,
I flew there. I literally, folks, I live like 5 miles away from it. Um, uh, but when I was a kid, we flew to LAX, went to Anaheim, and then my dad had rented us a car, so we drove to Universal Studios for a day, and then we drove to SeaWorld,
oh gosh,
which
yeah.
was not fun. Even then, I was sort of like, "This is a bummer. This bums me out."
I was in
So
my Free Willy phase then, I think, so I
I think
was
a lot of, I
still
mean, yeah,
kind of
that's why we
yeah,
went. Like I
yeah.
think, but it was a bummer. I'm sure they don't still have it. Maybe they do. But there was like a pool where you could pay to feed dolphins, and they would come up, and these dolphins were like so like lackluster, not lackluster, like
Were they jaded?
they were
Jaded
jaded and they had malaise,
dolphins.
and they would just swim
Oh,
up and open their mouths and just
oh,
like, and
babies.
then the seagulls would just steal the fish anyway, and it was just like, this sucks. But like,
Oh.
so even as a kid, I was like, this is not good. But anyway, neither here nor there. Universal Studios, that was like right when the Jurassic Park ride had just opened. So that was like 95 maybe or something like that. So like that was the big thing. Um, there was still the ET ride. There was still the the backdraft like experience, which is not
Oh,
there
oh my
anymore.
gosh, yeah.
And there was a lot of just like walking into things and like experiencing the movies. That is a really cool, that is the best version of that because it's like you're going there specifically to ride the movies. That was their entire,
That was like a tagline, wasn't
that was
it?
their tagline. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think that works a lot for whatever reason.
I agree with that.
Maybe because that's just always been their vibe. And it's also like they do shoot movies there as well. Like not on the theme park lot, but like very close. Like
Very
it's
close.
connected. The,
And Hollywood has the tram tour, which is the I can't remember if I'm allowed to curse on the show or not, but it is the best.
yeah.
Like, I freaking love that tram tour.
I don't even know. You know what? On the cursing vibe, like some people do, some people don't. I don't even think it matters anymore. You can do
Good.
whatever you
I was
want.
gonna say it is the shit.
Oh,
The
you can say
tram
shit.
tour is the
Shit
shit.
doesn't count. Again, like I'm such a jaded old dude, and also like I've lived in LA long enough where I'm just like, ugh, I can like see the money behind stuff, and so like, you know, I don't like the Transformers movies, but the Transformers ride is cool, you know, like that kind of thing.
Mm.
I'm okay with that. But then when they added like the entire like 3D Fast and Furious section to the tram tour, it's just
Oh,
like this. They're getting rid of that,
I was gonna say I know people were sad, and I was like, yes,
but it's because they're
but
building an
I
actual Fast and
know,
Furious
and
ride.
they took out the animal actor show for that, and
Yeah,
that's
I am
agreed.
surprised that they still have the Waterworld stunt spectacular, which is spectacular.
It
But
is very entertaining.
yeah,
Like if I'm in that park when there is a showtime, I will not be missing it.
absolutely. Um,
But yeah,
Also, when I was a kid,
Waterworld.
they still had the yeah. Who cares about Waterworld? Like, and yet that has lasted well beyond the scope of the movie. People don't even remember that that was a movie. I think a lot of the time. But when I was a kid, they still had the Back to the Future ride, which is now the Simpsons ride. Um,
Oh yeah.
and that was super fun because, like, and I think you can still find it on YouTube, but like they shot a whole. Because for those of you who haven't ridden it, it's one of the earliest. It was one of the earliest like motion. I guess Star Tours is the progenitor, but like this was the next one where it was like it was an open top thing, and so you were basically in a gimbal moving like big giant DeLorean on a planetarium screen, basically, and like it would move you around, and so they had to
That's
match the
cool.
film that they shot, and I believe it was, gosh, I can't remember who it was, like shot this whole thing. I'll look it up, but it's like I want to say it was John Dykstra, but it might not be. But and it was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, um, and obviously, like, they had to update it, but Back to the Future should still be like popular enough, and yet they.
Yeah, because I didn't get to go on it when it was Back to the Future. I've only been on the Simpsons version, and Simpsons is I for me is fine. I know it is very popular. I love that people. It's not super for me, so I've only been on it once.
Who
Sorry.
shot this stuff?
Oh yeah, because that whole area is Simpsons theme. What was it before? Was it
It,
just a Back to the Future ride and like some generic like Hollywood stuff?
yeah, I think because they have like their little, backlot like walk, which is still there. I'm trying to remember. I don't think there was like any specific lands or areas. Obviously, um, a huge amount of the middle of the of Hollywood now is taken up by uh, rides and areas devoted to a notorious turf. But I don't remember there being anything, but it's like right at the edge of where the escalator takes you down to the
Oh,
lower
to the
level.
lower level. Okay. Yeah.
Um,
With
yeah, I
those
can't really remember.
escalators too, like that's like a
That's a
like
huge
it's
part of it. Yeah, it's
right? Like I'm like it's a ride, but I'm like that is like part of it, like taking
yeah. Uh, uh, oh, it was Douglas Trumbull, of course. That's who directed it. He
oh,
who did Silent Running
thank you. I'm
and
like that name's familiar.
2001: A Space Odyssey, and he
Oh,
worked on
that
Close
guy.
Encounters, and he worked
Sure.
on Star Trek: The Motion Picture and Blade Runner.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Anyway,
cool.
yeah, it was really cool. I would highly recommend people check that out because like they had I don't know if it was a puppet. I think it was a puppet. Like at one point you go back into prehistoric times and you're flying by a T-Rex and stuff like that, and it was just like it's so cool. It was such a fun ride.
That sounds
Not to say that the Simpsons ride isn't fun, but it's those Back to the Future was like real things, models that you were flying through,
right.
whereas the Simpsons is CG stuff, and it's the same with the Despicable Me ride. It's basically the same thing. I don't know if you've been on that one.
Oh, I have not been on that one because that's a franchise that doesn't call my name.
No, but it's a fun ride, but it's the same
Okay.
thing, and it's even less like you're just in a room that moves, which is
Oh,
very
wild.
bizarre. It doesn't feel like you're even in a
Like
thing.
yeah, like I have gone into a theater,
Yeah,
basically.
it's bizarre.
I
Um,
hope I was gonna say I hope you get to go to Universal or I mean it's Florida, so I know that's a thing.
yeah, we do want to
But
go at some point, but I hear it's. I mean, it's huge.
it's huge, and, like, that same trip that I mean, I had been to Universal before, but I didn't go on the ET ride until that same trip I did Velocicoaster on, and that was, like, of course, like, polar opposite in vibes, and the ET ride is way more my speed.
For sure.
What a wonderful like, that's another one, I'm like, "Okay, if I'm in that park, I go on that ride, that I
Yeah,
will wait in line, I don't care." It's so charming, like, that kind of stuff, like, I eat it up.
yeah. I there's a quaintness to some of those, and even though obviously those are made to, and they're IP driven and all this stuff,
Yeah.
it seems less cynical to me, and maybe that's just my own bias from I was a kid when these were there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that I think the Simpsons ride is cynical, but like the rebranding the Jurassic Park ride to the Jurassic World ride. Even though they've updated it, it's a demonstrably better ride than it used to be. And it
Yes.
was fine before, but like there's more stuff, there's better animatronics, like there's all this stuff. But just the fact that they updated it to a version of the franchise I don't like as much kind of bums me out. And also like, the Mummy roller coaster I think is really fun, but it's also like not super tied to the movie. It's just like general mummy
Like a fun
stuff.
romp, yeah.
Yeah. Um
Generic mummies.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of excited about. I mean, other than it just being like creepy, spooky land, but like a dark universe area sounds really fun, and I can't imagine like it's going to be a direct like Frankenstein area. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think
Yeah,
it's those
it's
movies are old
vibes.
enough that it doesn't seem like it's a huge cash grab or something like that.
No, I am so stoked. I think of all I'm really stoked for How to Train Your Dragon 2, which I know again IP, but I love those movies and I've seen like the pictures of the dragons that you get to meet so I can have photo ops with and like, oh my gosh, it's like a level up of they have a Triceratops and a Raptor for Jurassic World that are really good and honestly quite scary. So, but I still think I'm more excited for Dark Universe, and I'm like, you know me, that I am not like not a modern horror person,
No.
but I like the idea of contemporary horror and like having kind of that like just creepy vibes.
Yeah.
Cannot wait.
And like everybody talks about how like whatever the big roller coaster is going to be there or the big ride or whatever they have there is going to be like mind blowing for people. And I'm just like that. I cannot wait. I am a big, whenever I get kind of like depressed about stuff or just kind of generally um anxious, I will watch people's YouTube videos of them on rides at theme parks that I have not been to.
That's
And
fun.
so there's a lot of stuff from Universal Orlando that I will watch. I watched an on ride of Velocicoaster, and I would ride that one. I think it's fun.
I would love it for you. I would love it. I love it for anyone who likes roller coasters.
But I think is it Universal somewhere in China? I forget. Is it Shanghai or Hong Kong or something like that? I
Beijing.
forget where.
Yeah.
But there's like a pterodactyl or a pteranodon like Jurassic World ride,
Whoa.
which is like it's a 4-person thing that kind of moves. It's I guess it kind of goes fast, but it's like an over the head track, and you kind of just fly around. And it's like,
So
well, that
like,
looks kind of fun. And
so your legs dangle.
yeah, your legs dangle. But there's a lot of ones in a lot of rides in uh Disney parks in Asia specifically, and some of the one in Paris, but like that are just like incredible. And it's like, why don't they build stuff like that here? Like these, like all of the haunted mansions elsewhere are better than ours, and I love ours. So like, I really want to go on all of those, but
Same.
um, like I forget what ride it or what it's tied to, but I think it might just be like general like Chinese mythology like rides and stuff like that. I just think that's really cool. And it's like they've spent so much energy on these things. And it's like that makes me want to go to those parks, you know, all the more, because it's like I don't have an attachment to any of these, you know, these things. I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with them, kind of thing.
I really want to go to all the parks in Asia. I've been to Disneyland Paris one time, and their Haunted Mansion, which I'm spacing on the name of now, Phantom Manor?
Yeah, I think it is
Or
Phantom Manor.
Mystic. Yeah, I think that one's Phantom Manor. Is really cool. But I need to go back. I would like to go back to that one because it was the middle of summer, and they don't really do air conditioning over there, and I was not the happiest. I was not in optimal theme park mood, let's put it that way. So I would like to go back, but I am jealous of and excited for all my friends or all the people like in our spaces who are going to Star Wars Celebration later this month in Tokyo, and who are like, yeah, we're going to Tokyo Sea and Disneyland. I'm like, I am happy for them, but I'm just like, oh, I want to go. I'm going to make it happen.
I mean, I wanted to go to Japan for such a long time anyway, but like, I think that might be because my wife is not like particularly interested in going to Japan. She'll go, but I think if I go, we're going to spend 2 of our days at Tokyo Disney. I think she would be more down for that.
Yes. And then like I saw people who got into the Ghibli Museum.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to, like, in this scenario where I have just like a dream amount of money and a luxury of time, right? Like take a month, actually see the places, and then spend some of those days doing the Tokyo parks, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. Just like have a tour of the land, the history, the parks.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I've never been to Paris either, and I'd still like to go to Tokyo or Disneyland Paris also. So like I'm totally fine with doing all that stuff. The one thing I wish, you know, Defunct Land is a really, really great channel for older rides and older you know, stuff like that, kind of the history of those. But I was so bummed out watching his episode about Euro Disney, the old version of Disneyland Paris, and how cool it used to be, and like their Tomorrowland was like Jules Verne inspired, and I was like, why? And then they just like changed it, and now it's not that anymore. And it's just like their version of friggin' Space Mountain. I forget what it was called, but like it was Jules Verne inspired. So you were shot out of a gun because that's what they thought you'd have to do to go to space was be like literally shot out of a cannon and stuff like that. It's like that like looked
That's
so cool,
cool.
and now it's not that. It's hyperspace. It's hyperspace mountain, and it's just sort of kind of a bummer. But I I I have no attachment to the movie Tron. I know a lot of people really like Tron and Tron Legacy, but that light cycle ride in Shanghai looks cool as shit, and I would really like to go on it.
Same,
So
and they have it in Magic Kingdom now too, and I haven't finessed the, like that's, like, a whole other, like, the that we don't have to get into, but, like, the what used to be FastPass that is now Genie Plus, and there are virtual queues for some things, and they open and it's just, like, a lot of
it's a
homework
lot.
to do, and, I'm someone who, like, is more prepared to do it than, like, the average family who goes once a decade, but
Yeah.
even I'm like, I just have not put the effort into figuring out
No.
how to get on Tron Light Cycle.
And that's part of the other thing too is like I can't the last time we actually went to Disneyland, we didn't get one of those genie passes or whatever. We were just like, we've been a billion times. We're just gonna go.
Right.
But all I can see is like the cynical aspect of it. And I know those things like that park, those parks make so much money and they need them to make money. Like I get it.
Their businesses, sure.
But it feels so like I don't know. I know my age is showing on this, but it's just like it's not the way it used to be. And it's like I'm
No.
not like that about almost anything else. It's not the way it used to be. But theme parks like should be we should and maybe kids don't notice it. But like I feel like if you bring your kids to a place like that, it's the parent's responsibility to know how much money is being spent. Don't let the kids see the money. You know what I
Right,
mean? And
right.
I feel like we can't get away from that now. It's just like all it is just like um, you know, well, if we spend more money, we can get on more rides, like all that. There's no way around spoiling the magic that way, I think.
Yeah, I think there's been more, especially post-pandemic, like pay to play, that I just don't care for. That feels when it already costs,
I
when
know.
I go, right? Like I'm an adult going alone or with another adult, but like taking a family it's a lot.
It's a
And so when
lot.
you're like, okay, well, you want to go at everything on this trip, you're going to take maybe once a decade or like once for this whole childhood, you got to also pay on top of everything you're paying
Yeah.
$20 per person so you can go on all the rides you want or more. I don't know if that price is right, but it used to just be fast passes that you could.
Yeah. And it was timed. And if you had used your fast pass for that hour, you couldn't use it again. And it's just like it made way more sense. The egalitarian nature of it. You also
Yeah,
didn't have to use your fast pass and you could just be like, well, I'll wait in this line for 50 minutes. It's not a big deal. And it's just like, and now it is like legitimately, if you don't spend more money, you will not get to ride as many rides as you think you ought to because you will
yeah,
just be waiting in line. It's just like that.
especially in Florida, I feel like too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the way things used to be, right? And like this is my version of that. Like I remember back in the day, like
Yeah. Back in my day.
back in my day, circa 2009, probably, like having a weekday off and going to Disneyland on a Wednesday in January. And it was like freaking empty and it was
Yeah.
a dream. And it's been so long, I haven't had an annual pass since, before the pandemic. But even in those, lead up to the years before I moved from LA, it wasn't like that.
I
Other
know.
people came into my park. How dare they? That sounds so entitled, but it's just it's a different vibe.
Yeah. It's just a different vibe. Yeah. It's sort of, I wish it were easier for me, and maybe it's just a result of me being 40 years old and cynical, like whatever. But like, I wish I could get past this, all the money I see everywhere, and the being forced to spend money left and right.
Yeah.
Like things at a theme park are expensive, like whatever. I can kind of get over that, but like, unless we go for the food and wine festival at California Adventure, like every other time I go, it's just sort of like, ugh, it's just so like, and I know I'm spending money for food and wine, but it's also like I'm getting alcohol, so I
Yes,
don't really
yes,
mind that
exactly. You're like
much.
you're getting delicious treats.
Yeah. And there used to just be like the feeling you could just hang out. And I feel like, especially at Disneyland, it's so packed and it's not big enough for all the people who go. And so
Right.
there is no place to just like chill anywhere anymore.
Yeah, I feel like
DCA has more room so you can chill, but like you're just especially in the best part, which is Adventureland, New Orleans Square. It's so crowded that you can't go anywhere.
yeah, those paths are not. That's something I appreciate, or have a different perspective on now when I go, because I tend to go to Walt Disney World now more because it's closer to me,
Right.
and I have a lot of friends who are cast members there and who are very kind about like, yes, I can get you in, which I super appreciate. But the paths, like, there's just like, even when it's busy. I mean, if it's busy, like if I'm going like the week between Christmas and New Year's for some reason,
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that does not apply. But generally, like even if I go, I'm like, oh, these paths are so wide. They're it's busy, but I am not like
Yeah.
scrunched and like jammed in, and it's a luxury. It's the luxury of space, which they just obviously have way more of in Florida because they plan for it.
Yeah. And I know that they're trying to buy, I don't know what they're doing. Who even knows? There's not that much room in Anaheim is the problem.
I know, that's what I think, like, of them, like, I feel like once in a while, I'll be like, "Oh, they wanna open another gate or something," and I'm just like, "But what are they gonna tear down to
Yeah,
do
where are they going to
that?"
put it? Like,
Um,
I guess you
just
could tear
yeah.
down downtown Disney, but that's commerce. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's dollar bills.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't yeah, I'm so curious to see how that park continues to develop given the space limitations,
yeah.
that they just I don't have in the same way in Florida.
I went to a presentation or a D23 several years ago, obviously pre-pandemic, and with one of our coworkers who uh, we were like all stoked. We were like, we're going to watch this presentation, then we're going to go get lunch somewhere. And there is nothing, and that's not at the park. That's at the like a Hilton or a something Hyatt nearby or something like that. Part of the Anaheim like convention center.
Oh, that area, okay.
Yeah. Which is close, and that's where the Angels play and stuff like that. It's all kind of right around that area. We could not find anything around there, like any kind of restaurant that wasn't like a super cruddy chain restaurant or something
I was
like
gonna
that.
say I can think of like a waffle place, and I think it is a chain restaurant. Because otherwise, yeah, I'm like I would walk to downtown Disney, and that's not close, and also super busy.
Yes, exactly. And so I'm sort of in like, and maybe this is the problem. It's like we go to spend time in the park, and we don't really like Anaheim itself is kind of doesn't have
Yeah.
it. I can understand why locals don't like the parks because it's just like that just dominates their entire like everything about it and makes that area really busy all the time. And it's like,
I was gonna say because
um,
like something I do like over that area, and I'm forgetting the name, but it's kind of like a food hall almost that you can go into that has a bunch of different places.
mm,
But its thing is like it's a drive. It's not
right,
walkable from the convention center. And if you're there for a convention or whatever, then you have to like get your car out of a somewhere and then drive. I guess you could Uber too. I think that's what I've done.
yeah,
But that's the only thing that comes to mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Florida has so much space, and the downside, of course, is that you are in their like compound. So like if you're basically always at Disney, even if you're just
Yes.
like at a hotel that's within the grounds or whatever. But
Yeah, that property is
it's
gigantic.
so big, like, and there's 4 parks, and it's just like
And
it's
they're downtown Disney. Disney Springs is also, like, huge.
yeah, that's right.
Jock Lindsey's Hangar Bar is my favorite, though. I will go to Disney Springs for that.
That's still there?
Yeah.
Man, because the last time I was there was when I was in high school for a choir competition. Thank you so much.
Nice.
And we
You're
won.
cool.
Thank you
That
so
oh,
much. Yeah.
hey.
But then we got to go to because it was at Disneyland or at one. I think it was at MGM Studios back when it was called
Oh,
MGM
MG
Studios.
yeah.
Um, but we got to go, around the parks and stuff like that, and that was super fun. But that was the last time that I was even at that park, and that they
Oh,
had
wow.
that bar there when I was there then, and I haven't been back since. So it's nice to see that it was still there, or hear that it was still there. Whatever you said it was called.
I don't think Jock Lindsey's Hangar Bar was around then. I think it didn't open until, like, 20 when did Lucasfilm buy it? Around
Oh,
2012.
you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe it was called something else.
But
I don't
yeah,
know, man.
it moved in from. I mean, something was there before.
Yeah, there was definitely something there.
It's probably a bar. And that's it. MGM Studios is one that has changed. I
Oh,
mean,
that keeps
besides the
changing.
name,
Yeah,
but yeah,
like
but so much
that was
still.
that was like they were trying to do a Universal Studios thing where it's like now let's ride the movies, and that's kind of what California Adventure tried to be at the beginning and really utterly
It
failed.
was about California. Did you ever go? Oh man,
No, I never did. I think it had already.
like
No.
heart.
It hadn't like morphed yet. But like when I first moved here, we were like, why would I?
What?
We're in California. Why would I
It,
bother going to that?
it is wild to think back to what that park. And I encourage anyone, if you are not aware of DCA's history or haven't like seen what it used to be, like to look up old videos because
Yeah,
wild.
it was desolate. First of all, there was like nothing there. It was big, wide, and like
Wow.
really just nothing around. One of their better dark rides, which is the Monsters Inc. ride, used to be I forget what it was called. It was basically like they didn't actually change the ride at all. They just dressed it differently. So like all the same animatronics are there. They just put Monsters Inc. stuff over them, which I think is really funny. But it used to be like you're in a limo going to a Hollywood premiere and the paparazzi are coming out and like there are um like caricatured celebrities that you would see, and it was just like it's so gross looking. um
I do
I
like
wish I could remember,
Monsters
but
Inc.
Defunct Land did a whole thing about that too, and it's really funny. But especially if you know that happened when you ride the Monsters Inc., it's just like you just see, oh
Like,
that was that. They
okay.
literally just put a costume on an old animatronic
Amazing.
of Regis Philbin or whatever.
What an idea.
Yeah, I know.
They're not
It's
all winners.
no. Well, that was the Eisner days.
One of your favorite words I will use, Kyle. Sometimes they have to ideate and come up with a
Ugh, I know. Ideate and iterate and friggin' they use their learnings. Friends, if you have to work in a corporate setting where people talk like that and use jargon, I just know that I feel for you because I also hate jargon. Jargon sucks. I hate any businessy jargon. I hate any industry jargon. I don't like hearing it.
no jargon for Kyle.
I don't even like old World War II things when people are like Roger. It's like, no, just say yes. You know what I mean? I'm overreacting about that one. That one's not real, but
I was like, oh, I like it when it's in the Clone Wars.
yeah. Roger.
And it's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, that obviously was a very meandering conversation about theme parks. Lately I've been really wanting to go to miniature golf courses because I feel like a really well themed miniature golf course is the vibe I want from all theme parks, which is just
Yes.
it's fun and kind of
Whimsical.
whimsical. Yeah,
Yes.
we did it. We
I
said
love
it at the same time.
whimsy. I've been thinking that same thing about a mini golf course here that I've driven past a lot of times, and I think there are like sculpted animals, and I'm like, why have I never done this? I
Just
need
go.
to. Just go.
There's really here in LA, there's kind of only the one. I mean, there's a couple like fancy schmancy indoor ones that are like for,
Like parties or
birthday parties and stuff.
team
Yeah.
building, probably.
Probably team building. But Castle Pines and friggin', wherever that is, Sherman Oaks is kind of the only one around.
I can picture the exterior of that. I've never
Yeah.
been to that either. So when you go, please report back.
I just went.
Oh, you just went. Report now.
Yeah. It's big. There's 4 full courses, which is kind of surprising.
That's some
And they have
space.
like an arcade and stuff like that. I'd been before. And they have batting cages. And I think go-karts also.
Layers upon layers.
I know. And it's right across a little ravine from where the LA Fire Department does its training. So there's like a big building, like just a pillar basically of a building with stairs that they have to like train to like walk up and stuff. So sometimes if you're there on a weekend, you can see the firefighters training. It's fun. It's very old timey. Actually, some of the whatchamacallit, like the statuary stuff, like is the same as the mini golf course in Westminster, Colorado that I used to go to. Like it's the same designs. I don't know if they just got them out of a catalog. So like there's a specific castle with a green dragon looking in, and it's the literal same exact one that's in the one in Colorado. And then there's like a different area that has like a Mayan temple style thing where there's a big head statue holding two smaller statues with heads. And the one in Colorado is bigger, but it's the same exact design. So it's sort of like
from a
I don't know.
company somewhere that
Yeah,
that's
and
their
there's just
thing.
kind of like, oh, that's funny. That's like the same. And there's like a haunted house, hole and stuff like that. So it must just be kind of cookie cutter. And still fun, still enjoyed it. I'm very bad at it. I haven't been in a million years, but I used to be really good, and now as much as one can be good at putt golf,
a pro,
but
right? I feel like I would not excel, but I would have a good time.
Yeah, and that's fun. That's all you need. Amy, I thank you very much for joining me to talk about why we're mad at the state of the industry.
Yeah, good times. No, thank you for having me.
What entitled pricks we are, by the way. I really wish that Disneyland were more to my tastes.
If they could just cater it specifically for me, that'd be super cool.
Anyway, the name of the book is Thrill Ride. It is available now. We already talked about it, but please plug it yet again for anybody who wants to read it.
Yes, if you are a theme park adult who likes romances, has strong feelings about Fast Pass, theme parks versus amusement parks, or just wants a lovely little kissing book, little grumpy sunshine action, please buy Thrill Ride.
That's dangerously close to jargon, I have to say. Just kidding.
And then I got kicked off the podcast.
Yeah, you're never allowed back.
That's it.
Kissing book about grumpy sunshine? Is that what the word you said?
Yes.
Grumpy sunshine. Sure. Is there such a thing as like gloomy positivity? Is that also a thing or no?
Not by those words that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just spitballing.
Solid question.
Yes, and you can get it anywhere that fine books are sold. I'm assuming they're at like bookstores too, but probably the easiest way to get it is ordering from local bookstores.
Yes, specifically if you want a signed copy, my indie bookstore called Malaprops has them on their website.
Very great, and I will put that in the show notes for people who want to click and do that. Amy, do you have anything? You let people know where they can find you. Sign up for your your newsletter, which at least one person really likes.
Which I'm grateful for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, please do. My newsletter is amyratcliffe.substack.com, and I'm on Instagram at amy_geek. And that's really, those are the places where I do stuff these days.
I don't even do nothing on Instagram anymore. I still have that account. I don't do anything on it, but you can follow me on Letterboxd, where I watch a lot of weird movies and then write a little blurb about them usually. You can follow me there at Kyle_Anderson. All right. Thank you all for listening. Amy, thank you for joining me yet again. I'm Kyle Anderson. Join me again next time on Laser Focus, when my guest will be a different person. Bye-bye. Laser Focus is a production of Nerdist Industries and Legendary Digital Networks. It was produced, edited, and hosted by me, Kyle Anderson. For more, visit Nerdist.com.